I need you to listen carefully, because this is the kind of mistake that feels harmless while you're making it. No alarms go off. No one tells you you're ruining your life. In fact, most people will congratulate you for it. They'll say you're responsible, stable, practical. That's exactly what they told me. My name is Daniel. I'm 81 years old, and I spent more than half my life staying in places I didn't truly belong, simply because it was comfortable. Comfort is a strange thing. It doesn't hurt you all at once. It slowly convinces you that this is good enough. The job that doesn't excite you, the relationship that feels more like routine than love, the life that looks fine from the outside, but feels strangely quiet inside. You tell yourself the same sentence over and over. It's not perfect, but it's safe. And that sentence quietly steals decades of your life. I know that because it stole mine. Let me tell you about the moment I first realized something was wrong. It was a cold morning in 1976, and I was standing in a place I had already begun to hate. It was 7:40 in the morning. I remember the time because I used to arrive early every single day, earlier than everyone else. Not because I loved the work, but because I believed that discipline meant staying. The office building looked the same as it always did. Gray walls, fluorescent lights, rows of desks that felt more like cages than workplaces. I had been working there for almost 12 years. 12 years of telling myself the same story. This is a good job. People would be lucky to have this. Don't risk what you already have. And on paper, it really was a good life. Steady paycheck, predictable routine, no chaos, no uncertainty. But that morning, something strange happened. I was standing by the window, holding a cup of coffee, watching people rush through the street below, and suddenly a thought entered my mind that I had been avoiding for years. A quiet question. If this is such a good life, why do I feel so trapped? That was the first crack in the story I had been telling myself. And once that crack appears, you start seeing things you can't unsee. For a long time, I ignored that question. Most people do. Because once you admit that something in your life is wrong, you also have to admit that you're the one choosing to stay. And that's uncomfortable. So instead, I did what millions of people do every day. I buried the feeling. I told myself I was being grateful. I told myself I was being responsible. After all, my father worked in a factory his entire life. He used to say something to me when I was young. Son, a stable job is a blessing. Don't ever gamble with stability. And I believed him. So every time that quiet voice inside me whispered, you could do something else, I shut it down. I reminded myself of the mortgage, the bills, the safe path. Because comfort has a powerful argument. It tells you, why risk losing what you already have? And slowly, that argument turns into a prison. You don't stay because you love your life. You stay because leaving feels too dangerous. At first, comfort feels like security. You wake up at the same time, drive the same road, sit at the same desk. Nothing changes, and that's exactly why it feels safe. But something strange happens when your life becomes too predictable. You stop noticing it. Days blur together, weeks pass quietly, years disappear without announcing themselves. One day you look up and a decade is gone. That's what happened to me. I told myself I would stay at that job just a few more years, just until things felt more stable, just until the timing was right. But comfort has a way of extending the deadline. 5 years turned into 10. 10 turned into 20. And before I realized what had happened, half of my working life had already passed inside that same gray building. The scary part? Nothing terrible had happened. My life simply stood still.
The moment it finally hit me wasn't dramatic. There was no crisis, no shouting, no sudden disaster. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting in a meeting room with 6 other people. We were discussing numbers, projections, quarterly targets, the same conversation we had been having for years. And while everyone else was talking, I looked around the table. Something about the room suddenly felt strange. The same faces, the same complaints, the same tired jokes. And then I realized something unsettling. 10 years earlier, we had been sitting in almost the exact same meeting, talking about the exact same problems. That's when a thought hit me like cold water. Nothing in my life had actually moved forward. I had just been maintaining it. Maintaining the job, maintaining the routine, maintaining the comfortable cage I had built around myself. And for the first time in my life, that comfort didn't feel safe anymore. It felt like wasted time. You see, comfort doesn't just keep you safe. It slowly takes things away from you. Not all at once, little by little. The first thing it steals is curiosity. When you're young, you wonder about everything. New places, new ideas, new possibilities. But when life becomes comfortable, curiosity fades. You stop asking, what else could I do? You start asking, why change anything? The second thing comfort steals is courage. Because every year you stay in the same place, the unknown begins to feel more dangerous. Opportunities stop looking exciting. They start looking risky. And the longer you stay comfortable, the smaller your world quietly becomes. Until one day you wake up and realize something frightening. You didn't stay because you loved your life. You stayed because you were afraid to change it. And fear, disguised as comfort, can quietly steal an entire lifetime. The real cost of comfort is something most people don't see until much later. It's not money, it's not status, it's time. Time you could have spent exploring who you really are. Because when you stay in a life that feels safe but empty, something inside you slowly goes quiet. Your ambitions get smaller. Your dreams become more realistic. You stop imagining the life you once wanted. I remember when I was 25, I had ideas, plans, places I wanted to see. I used to talk about starting my own business, traveling across Europe with nothing but a backpack, building something that actually felt meaningful. But every year I stayed comfortable, those ideas got quieter. Not because they were impossible, but because I convinced myself they were impractical. And practicality can be the most polite way we justify giving up. The moment that changed everything for me happened much later. I was 63 years old, retired, mortgage paid, career finished. By every normal definition, I had won the game. One evening, I was sitting on my porch, watching the sun go down, and for the first time in decades, there was no schedule waiting for me the next morning. No meetings, no deadlines, no office, just silence. At first, it felt peaceful, but after a while, a strange thought appeared. If comfort had really been the goal all along, why didn't I feel satisfied? Why did it feel like something important had been left unfinished? That's when the truth finally became clear. Comfort had given me a stable life, but it had quietly taken something else in return. It had taken the version of me that was willing to risk becoming more.
That's when I finally understood something most people realize far too late. Comfort is not the same thing as peace. Peace comes from knowing you tried, from knowing you stepped into the unknown, even when it scared you. Comfort, on the other hand, is simply the absence of risk. And if you build your life around avoiding risk, you also avoid growth. You avoid discovery. You avoid the version of yourself that might have existed if you had been just a little braver. I'm not telling you to destroy your life. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow or burn everything down. But I am telling you something important. Pay attention to the places where you are staying only because it's comfortable. The job you stopped believing in. The routine that feels empty. The dream you quietly buried because it seemed unrealistic. Because one day, if you ignore those feelings long enough, you might wake up like I did. Comfortable, safe, and wondering where all the years went. So here's the truth I wish someone had told me when I was younger. Comfort is a beautiful place to rest, but it is a terrible place to stay forever. A life that is too safe slowly becomes smaller. Smaller dreams, smaller risks, smaller versions of yourself. And the tragedy is, it doesn't feel dangerous while it's happening. It just feels normal. You wake up, go to work, come home, repeat, year after year, until suddenly you realize the life you were planning to live one day never actually started. I stayed because it was comfortable, and comfort quietly took 40 years from me. So if there's something inside you that keeps whispering, there must be more than this, don't ignore that voice. That voice is not your enemy. It's the part of you that still wants to live fully. And trust me, one day you will reach the end of your life and look back at the road you walked. The question will not be whether you were comfortable. The question will be this: did you truly live, or did you simply stay where it felt safe?